Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me today as we are going to have a fun time discussing Jupiter in Leo and how this energy is going to relate to all 12 astrology signs. This means we'll be looking at how that expansive, creative, bold Jupiter in Leo energy signature is going to interact with your planets and placements that may be in any of the 12 signs. So if you have planets in Aries, planets in Taurus, planets in Gemini, planets in Cancer, we're going to discuss how this energy is going to come through and interact with those placements. So this can be very helpful in seeing and understanding how the generosity of Jupiter, the confidence, and the magnetic charisma of Jupiter, especially in Leo, is going to be more personal for you depending on your own planets and placements. So we're going to go through all 12 astrology signs in today's show. And as a point of reference, back on May 18th, I did a separate podcast for you about Jupiter in Leo moving through all 12 astrology houses. And so that was to help you identify the areas of life where you were going to experience growth, optimism, and ease as Jupiter in Leo moves through that house in your chart. So both of these podcasts could be beneficial for seeing more about this transit in your own chart. So let's start by just discussing the Jupiter in Leo energy signature, which is where you're meant to feel stronger in your creative gifts, your sense of self, your personal will, your creative spirit, and your light body. Leo is connected to the sun, the biggest source of light in our solar system. And here comes Jupiter, the biggest planet in our solar system, emphasizing what parts of you are ready to be experienced and acknowledged at a whole new level. This is where you might find yourself being refueled with new levels of confidence, self-assertion, personal desires, and greater clarity in what you want to create in your life that gives it meaning, joy, and excitement. Jupiter in Leo is going to also expand our heart-led manifestations, opening up more for us to claim and experience in the heart chakra. And this is the masculine heart energy, by the way, because Jupiter in Cancer has been working with the feminine heart. Now the energy moves into the masculine heart, of which we have both. And this is where the energy can feel ready to make something happen. That's the case with all of the fire signs, is that it gives you momentum, growth, and action that you want to take. So if you've been waiting for something, if you've been observing, if you've been trusting and receptive with that Jupiter in Cancer, now this Jupiter in Leo is go for it. I want this. I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to take the necessary action. There can also be more of a connection to inner child healing with this placement. That's because the Leo energy is quite playful and fun. This is where you might be more courageous in seeing something in yourself you haven't noticed before. This energy can take a gamble. It's a risk taker. It's where you're ready to do something with greater force and determination. Leo is a fixed signs. And so those fixed signs will set their sights on something, move towards it, and make it happen, especially with fixed fire. And so this is where you could feel more of your life force and creative spirit is being ignited, and it feels stronger and brighter than it has for a while. Of course, it always depends on the individual chart, but Jupiter in Leo is going to bring new parts of ourselves to light that we're ready to courageously own, and could even feel deep inspiration around what we're acknowledging in ourselves and who we are now. Now, it's important to note that Jupiter in Leo is going to have a very interesting transit over the next year. Jupiter enters Leo the end of June 29th or June 30th, depending on your location, and will stay in the sign for about 13 months until July 26, 2027. In order of the course of this transit, Jupiter in Leo is going to be squaring Chiron in Taurus, opposing Pluto in Aquarius, and then also working with the South Node in Leo. So this means that this is actually going to amplify the changes and areas of self that are actually going to be revealed in the light and come to light. So this means that the shadow side of Leo can also be quite bigger during this particular 13-month transit. And that's simply because Jupiter in Leo is interacting with Chiron in Taurus, Pluto in Aquarius, and the South Node, signaling that there are parts of our self-identity that are meant to be turning over. This is part of our ascension journey, the parts of yourself that maybe have been overly inflated or exaggerated, parts of oneself that have not been fully embodied or connected to the heart or aware of how the energy is coming across. This means there can be a lot of drama. That's part of the shadow side of Leo, where the volume on self-expression is way too much and way too big. This can also show up as more recklessness, more arrogance, and bigger ego energies. All of this is going to be quite obvious in this transit and give us some new choice points to make around what needs to be reconfigured and realigned to basically match up with the bigger human evolution cycle that we're in. So I feel like this is going to really show us where people are out of balance or they're too overly invested in only their own immediate needs with no consideration for others, with no responsibility, lacking an understanding of the effects and consequences of their energy. That Leo expression can be quite childish, and so that could be something that's on full display as well. So this is going to be a very interesting transit with Jupiter and Leo because of the difficult aspects that will be unfolding. And as the energy works with the South Node, which means it will also be working with the eclipses, there are going to be parts of oneself that experience ego deaths and that are falling away so that they can be recreated in a higher expression. So know that even though Jupiter tends to be where we feel the most optimistic, strong, confident, and life is working for us, this is also going to be an area of life where you're going to have more extreme changes than expected. For some people, this is going to be a time of collapse and downfall. They are going to then need to recreate themselves with new talents or new abilities that Jupiter in Leo will bring to light. So I do want to call that out because that is a big part of the energy signature here. And it's something to stay mindful of in ourselves to ensure that that inspiration and joy you're feeling, that it is soul aligned and connected to not only your heart, but how the energy goes out and affects others. Just as the sun has its strong rays and light and warmth, too much of that creates a sunburn. Too much of that can be detrimental to our health and also bring about unintended negative consequences. So as with all things in astrology, responsibility is needed, and I feel that's going to be a big part of this transit. So now let's get into how Jupiter in Leo will be interacting through all 12 astrology signs. I never do timestamps, but I appreciate those of you who do it for the rest of the listeners. So thank you to whomever wants to do timestamps for each of the 12 astrology signs. So to begin, we will start with Aries, where this Jupiter in Leo is going to be trining any of your planets or points in Aries, expanding self-expression, leadership, and bold new initiations. This is a fire sign trine that will increase confidence, charisma, passion. This is where you're going to really feel like there's a green light here for you to do something, to make it real, to make it happen, and that you're ready to risk big, to go bigger, especially trusting your instincts and even perhaps becoming more visible. That is part of the energy of Leo, is what you're ready to take into the world that's ready to be seen. So there can be more intuition that comes through because of movement, because of what you're being called towards, and how you feel the energy rise that feels quite excitable and energetically alive. So you might have some breakthroughs in your own creativity, in your own sense of self, and in what you've been called to begin, especially since April of this year. Jupiter in Leo brings in more fuel to the fire to those Aries placements, and you might find that things really take off and really evolve. Then we have Taurus, where this Jupiter in Leo is squaring planets in Taurus. And that square is where Jupiter in Leo is going to bring in something new that at first you could resist, push away, or avoid. These are both fixed signs. And there's something here that Jupiter in Leo wants you to do or take a risk on that the Taurus planets might be holding back on actually moving with. Now, this can be a time when you also sense that your heart is ready to open more fully and that you're willing to trust in greater abundance, pleasure, and creative fulfillment. But it requires a risk and it requires you to do something different. So the planets in Taurus could struggle against the momentum and energetic force of Jupiter in Leo at first because it doesn't feel secure or certain. But there's something here that you're going to feel is energetically powerful. And why not take a risk? Why not do something different? Why not see where it goes? You might even discover some hidden talents or some gifts you didn't know you had. This could also be something that pushes you into a limelight or out in front of others that doesn't feel comfortable at first because of how that Taurus energy can be strongly rooted in what is. So just know that this is where there's something pushing at those Taurus planets and placements for growth that might even be more fun than you anticipate. Gemini planets are going to be feeling the creative spirit here of Jupiter in Leo through your voice, communication gifts, writing, and intellectual pursuits. You might find that you have more to say and it comes about easily. You might be creating new stories, new ways of expressing yourself that don't require overthinking. It just flows through you. It's amplified and strong. Jupiter in Leo is going to provide a steady stream of inspiration to ground in those Gemini talents. And this is where things can happen more quickly, especially when you're trusting your own internal flow. You might feel more confident teaching, presenting, writing, speaking, sharing your ideas publicly. There might be more here that comes to life within you simply because you're doing something new, you're taking a risk, and things are lining up in ways that you could never have expected. This can bring about some really fortuitous conversations and synchronicities. This is overall a very supportive placement for any planets in Gemini, and there could be a sense that life is really busy and full, and maybe you're feeling more expanded in your heart space and more alive than you have in a few years. So keep in mind that Jupiter in Leo is going to move things ahead quickly. So don't get stuck in the mind. Allow them to transpire and see where it goes. Now, Jupiter in Leo is going to be working with Cancer in a very interesting way. It's almost like this is the energy that is pushing Cancer from behind to get out there and to be stronger in your emotional confidence and deeper trust in what you need and what matters to you. This is where Jupiter in Leo is going to actually invite Cancer to be a bit more bold, a bit more open, and to know that you're worthy of being seen. There's something in you that could be ready to shine that others are ready to hear and receive. So this energy could be taking those planets in Cancer into some uncomfortable places at first, but this is where you're trusting the spirit of your voice, of your heart, of your ability abilities. And there's also something here that could really work with your heart healing. You might feel that you're beautifully protected. That's one of the energy signatures of Jupiter, is spiritual protection as you grow. And there could be something here that now you're ready to do in a new way, especially since Jupiter was just in the sign of Cancer, reprogramming and basically creating a whole new frequency of self-knowingness in the Cancer planets and points. Now Jupiter wants you to take it out, do something with it, be bold, be strong, and also ensure that you're beautifully connected to the intention of love. And this could be something that continues to create joy in your life and again invites you into more of your self-confidence and courage that maybe you didn't realize you possessed. Now, all of the planets in Leo, if you have planets or placements in Leo, you're going to experience the expansive growth of Jupiter in Leo, moving conjunct your planets in Leo. And this is going to be actually an interesting dynamic because it does depend on what degrees you have planets in Leo. If you have planets in the very early degrees of Leo, especially 0 to 5 degrees, this is going to be a significant time for you because you're going to be dealing with not only Jupiter in Leo, but the Chiron and Taurus squares and the Pluto in Aquarius oppositions that you've already been in. So Jupiter in Leo is going to bring in new life force and new understandings of what to do next that you haven't seen in yourself before. Chances are you are undergoing or have been undergoing a very deep personal transformation that is taking you out of your own comfort zones. And this is going to bring in a new light to work with, new abilities and talents to understand in yourself. So this can be quite rejuvenating. Again, specifically for those who have planets or points in the early degrees of Leo. Now, if you have planets or points further along in Leo that have not interacted with the Pluto and Aquarius opposition or that aren't involved in the Chiron and Taurus squares yet, then you're going to feel more of the beautiful growth and radiance of Jupiter in Leo over this next 13 months. This is where you're going to have more expansion in your authentic purpose, visibility, leadership, and heart-centered expressions. You're going to have new areas coming to life within you and around you, things that you're inspired to do, things you want to pursue. This could even open up more areas of passion in your life and your life force, certainly relating to romance, dating, and love as well. So this is where those planets in Leo are going to surge to life with the expansive, growth-oriented qualities of Jupiter. Things are going to come alive for you and feel easier in this area of your life, and you might be newly inspired around what you're ready to do over this transit. It's certainly one of the most fortuitous transits for those planets or placements in the later degrees of Leo. Again, I would say especially 8 degrees of Leo to 29 degrees of Leo. Now, on that note, I have to bring in the fact that the South Node enters Leo the end of July and is going to be moving backwards through the sign. So your planets or placements at 29, 28, 27, 26 degrees of Leo are going to be in a phase of closure, completion, and renewal. And those areas of your life are going to be ending and needing to be regenerated. And then by the time Jupiter gets there, you're going to have a new sense of what's possible and what to do next that feels quite fortuitous and strong. So there's a lot going on here for these Leo energies, but just know that Jupiter brings in more of what is inspiring you to move forward. Now let's take a look at planets or points in Virgo. Jupiter in Leo is going to help the Virgo energies release the need for perfectionism, for a plan and for certainty, and invite in more pleasure, self-trust, and joy. This is where Jupiter in Leo is going to help take a risk, do something different, do something bold, and allow those Virgo energies to move with their own creative spirit without becoming too analytical or stuck in the mind. This is playful energy. This is the ability to express oneself more freely and more openly. This can also bring in confidence with your spiritual gifts, your healing abilities, your lifestyle and your body, as well as what it means to be in love with your work and your skill set. You might find that you're willing to integrate and incorporate more joy into your life to make sure that it's integrated into your schedule or on your calendar, and that this becomes healing medicine that you need. This could even be shaking off things that have been too consuming, too intense, too much, and bring you back into your life force and creative spirit that is more open and alive. So trust that Jupiter in Leo is going to help these Virgo energies come to life in a whole new way. Maybe not take some things too seriously or overinvest in what has been draining your energy anymore. This is going to bring in more play, more joy, more fun. And when you're aware of that in your chart, it helps you to say yes without holding back or hesitating. Now, with planets in Libra, Jupiter in Leo is going to create a sextile that is very supportive in sharing your ideas, thoughts, and expertise in a whole new way, especially as it will bring in more creative collaborations, partnerships, business opportunities, and people to share with. This means that all of the thoughts, ideas, and knowledge that Libra has, especially your intelligence and what you have accumulated, is going to be taken out into the world in a new way. You might be presenting at a conference. You might be teaching a seminar. You might be called to write something and express what you've learned in a whole new way. That's because Jupiter in Leo wants something to be in the spotlight, wants greater visibility. And as you trust this part of yourself, you're going to have more opportunities that arrive. Your intuition is going to strengthen, especially around the right people to work with or collaborate with. There can even be more beauty, grace, and creativity that occurs in your life with this Jupiter in Leo. Things happen easily and beautifully for these planets in Libra, and this is going to be quite a beautiful time for planets in Libra. And you might find that you're even interacting with more people who are on the same page, who have the same vision, or who want to invest in something that is mutually important. So this is going to be quite a beautiful time for those planets or placements in Libra. It can open up new romantic opportunities, new friendships, new influential connections that matter. So I hope this brings about some wonderful developments for Libra energies, especially because you're going to now feel ready to put something into action that previously felt it wasn't ready or it was still cooking in the oven. Now it's going to happen. Now let's look at planets and placements in Scorpio, where this Jupiter in Leo is going to be squaring those planets in Scorpio, which could be quite unsettling because Jupiter in Leo wants you to push something out into the light and make it visible. The Scorpio energy prefers to stay behind the scenes at times, wants to keep something hidden or in your back pocket. But Jupiter in Leo is coming through with a playful energy that says, now's the time. Put it out there, share it. Let them see what you got. This is where there's going to be greater emotional confidence and even a powerful transformation around public identity, leadership, and vulnerability being seen as a strength. And you might be feeling that within these planets or placements in Scorpio, that it's okay to not know what's going on or to see the whole picture. You don't have to be in control. You don't have to overly think it through or understand the full journey just yet. Your intuition is going to be louder and stronger, and you're also going to be more emotionally perceptive, as that Jupiter in Leo is going to shine a light on what you need to know and see in order to take correct action. So I think this is going to be an interesting dynamic between Jupiter and Leo, shining a light on what that Scorpio energy is ready to offer and to place out into the light that maybe you've been reluctant to do so. And with Jupiter and Leo, it could happen quickly, almost like someone grabs your hand and pulls you into something before you have time to fully emotionally process it, and before you know it, something's underway and occurring. So just know that that's part of the discomfort that can happen here, is that Jupiter in Leo is going to be more fast-paced and require you to do something beyond what you would normally plan or choose. Now we look at planets and placements in Sagittarius, where this Jupiter in Leo creates a trine to those planets and energies in Sagittarius. And this is beautifully expansive and growth oriented, energizing and motivating. This is the need for movement, adventure, growth. This is where you feel increased optimism in what you've learned, and you might even see something steady and clear in your belief systems, ideology, world perceptions, the knowledge you've accumulated through lived experience and learned lessons. Jupiter in Leo is going to bring in a grounding influence that strengthens your sense of self and what you're creating. You may even feel called to share more of yourself in the world in some capacity. This can be in teaching abilities, simply in publishing, writing, putting something out into the world on a bigger scale. This can also be spiritual confidence. You may feel called to share more of your words, ideas, or opinions in some way. Sagittarius energy focuses on travel and visionary leadership, and you could have some new understandings of how to do it your own way. What is unique to you that you can offer and take forward that is naturally aligning, that's just showing up because it's right on time? You might even feel very excited about something you have planned, more expansive even in your ideas, growth, and travel itineraries. So this is a very excitable, motivating energy as Jupiter in Leo trines planets or points in Sagittarius. And it's time to go forward in a way that is both bold and concrete. And that's because Leo is a fixed sign. So it's going to require the Sagittarius energies to make decisions and stick with it. Now we look at planets or points in Capricorn, and this Jupiter in Leo is interesting with the energies of Capricorn when you think of Capricorn as the adult, the elder, and the mentor, and Leo as the playful child or the teenager who is free-spirited and alive. This is where planets in Capricorn are going to be invited to soften their structures, to not be so rigid, and to connect with more of the heart, with passion and creativity that maybe you have become disconnected from. There could be some opportunities here to experience growth through unexpected developments, almost like an unexpected child or teenager appears who ends up teaching you something that is essential or that you knew earlier in your life, but you've become disconnected from it. This is a very vibrant energy that can also return you to your unique creative gifts. I feel too that part of this Jupiter in Leo is going to balance Capricorn energies and invite in more emotional expression, emotional authenticity, and emotional warmth. And this could be something, again, that shows up through another person, or that you find yourself in an opportunity that brings alive more of your soul, especially anything in the heart that suddenly has new light and new expansive qualities. So for planets or points in Capricorn, Capricorn, this would be a time to be more playful. That energy is certainly not going to be reckless with Capricorn, but there could be things here that you're willing to do differently or do for the first time that feels like a risk or feels like a new endeavor. With Jupiter, you are always traveling with some form of protection. So just know that whatever you say yes to, most likely it's going to pay off and transpire in a beneficial way. Now let's look at planets or placements in Aquarius, where this Jupiter in Leo is opposing those energies in Aquarius and bringing you back into what you want, what really gives you life and what lights you up. This is a warming energy that brings alive the creative spirit based on what you want, regardless of what anybody else thinks or what anybody else expects of you. This is where Jupiter in Leo wants you to return to your individual energy field and trust in the passion that you're sensing, and look at how your energy is willing to expand in new ways as you listen to what has an emerging truth for you. And so I'm seeing this as the Jupiter in Leo opposition is bringing you back into the body, especially the chest and the heart. And you could feel that there's something pulsing alive within you that you've just got to try. You've just got to do it. It's the energy of get out of the head and make it real. Don't think you have to keep talking about it in the group chat or waiting for others to join you. This supports your independent spirit and reminds you that you're worth it. You're worth doing something new and different because it calls to you, because you love it. And that's the only thing you have to trust here. Now, the planets in Aquarius are also undergoing some deep changes that have been unfolding since Pluto entered Aquarius. If you have planets or points in the early degrees of Aquarius, especially 0 to 5 degrees of Aquarius, this has been a really big time for you with that Pluto in Aquarius conjunction. Plus, you're going to have Chiron in Taurus squaring your planets in the early degrees of Aquarius. So there's been a lot of discomfort here, to say the least. There's been a lot of deep changes happening for you that others probably aren't aware of. Maybe you've been going through a dark night of the soul or something really personal and intense that you've been trying to wrap your mind around. Well, this Jupiter in Leo is going to bring you into your worthiness of being loved, of being seen, of being connected, and that your creative gifts are here and they're waiting for you to claim them. And you might have an invitation of some kind to step more fully into your light and your abilities that is going to support you in loving who you are, even during this time of deep transformation. Now, if you have planets or points from 6 to 29 degrees of Aquarius, so basically most of the sign, then you aren't in the intensity of that Pluto conjunction yet. But you are going to be feeling, especially the late degrees of Aquarius, the North Node in Aquarius, which occurs in the end of July, where planets at the late degrees of Aquarius are going to be elevated as this year unfolds. And there's going to be more that's presented and expanded for you that you're going to be invited to say yes towards. And then you might hold back and wonder, who am I to say yes? Should I do it? This is different. This is new. Jupiter in Leo says go for it. Go for it powerfully and confidently. Say yes to your own growth in this lifetime and the expansion that's happening for you now. So the planets in Aquarius are experiencing many energies over the next 13 months especially, but that Jupiter in Leo is giving you the confidence to say yes to yourself and to know that you're worth it. You have what you need. You're even going to be entering into a whole new level of gifts and abilities that maybe you've sensed your whole life and now they're being actualized. So this is very inspiring for those who have planets or placements in the late degrees of Aquarius, okay? So I just wanted to throw that in because even though I'm going through all of these signs through a very general lens, it's important to note that some signs, such as Aquarius, has a lot more dynamics going on. So I hope that assists you. And then finally, planets or points in Pisces. This Jupiter in Leo is going to inspire you to share more of your gifts, talents, and abilities in a visible form. This is bringing into the light and into the spotlight more of what you've been doing behind the scenes, or even parts of yourself that you've just taken for granted. You just know, this is me, this is who I am, this is what I'm about. Now that Jupiter in Leo is offering an invitation to make it more visible. And because of this, you may feel more confident sharing your intuitive gifts, your artistic talents, your healing abilities. You could even be called to be a compassionate leader in some form, and that you are ready to take on something that maybe you previously felt was too big or too overwhelming. This energy is going to strengthen your faith in yourself. It's also going to open up your heart and give you a grounding confidence in your capabilities, meaning you can do it. You can handle it. You've got this. But sometimes that Pisces energy, it will waver in the levels of confidence you feel. And this Jupiter in Leo is going to strengthen that. And you might feel it. You might feel it's more rooted and more radiant. You might feel that you're ready to do something and it just flows through you, that you're easily channeling. You're receiving a lot more messages. You're in line and attuned to more of your own creative spirit, your artistic expression. This can certainly bring in all new levels of divine inspiration. And I'm feeling too, like this can also call in some very beautiful, heartfelt spiritual connections. Now, of course, that can be with real people, but that can also be with your guides, angels, and those who are working with you off planet. So this can be quite a beautiful, supportive energy for those Pisces planets or points. Again, you could feel uncomfortable with how that Jupiter in Leo wants you to shine, wants you to be seen. And that might be something that you struggle with, that you move back and forth with because you'd rather not. But there's something here that you're being called to do, perhaps even as a form of service, as an offering, as something that will benefit even more people because of your courage to put it out there. So just know that for those planets or points in Pisces, you are being asked to be more confident. And even though you could feel energetically sensitive to what is transpiring or even the new environments that you're in, Jupiter in Leo is going to help strengthen that solar plexus and give you the ability to handle a lot of energies at once. So overall, this Jupiter in Leo transit is going to bring to life more of ourselves that we're ready to shine and embody. Again, I'm feeling it as an energetic activation of the light body, that it's something you are here to stand confidently in on the planet at this time. As we continue to move through this grand ascension cycle, this is where we also know that we've got this. You can handle this. You've got it under control when you connect it to the power of your solar plexus and your heart. When you align those two chakras and you allow yourself to be full with your own confidence and spiritual abilities, there's more that's going to be attracted to you. It's going to be magnetic. It's going to be called in, that could actually feel like a rebirth of sorts, that you feel newly rejuvenated and that you're moving with new vigor. So know that this can be quite a beautiful transit as you connect with more of your talents, gifts, and personal strength. And this could even be a time when you're ready to do something new simply because the universe is bringing it forward and presenting it to you in a very inspiring way. We will keep discussing the Jupiter in Leo energies, of course, every Wednesday on the Wednesday podcast. And we will be moving through all of the transits that will be happening for this Jupiter in Leo. I touched on some of them in today's show. but we'll be touching on more of them in the weeks ahead because it's going to be quite an interesting dance with the fixed signs. So if you have planets or points in the fixed signs of Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, then this is going to show you what is changing in your life, ready or not. But Jupiter in Leo is going to give you the confidence to move ahead and basically handle what is ready to be rebirthed. As always, thank you so much for joining me for today's show. I'll be back every Wednesday and Monday for a new podcast episode. Wishing you a beautiful journey in the day ahead, the week ahead. And as always, thank you for your time, energy, and presence. I will see you back here very soon, and we will keep rolling through these astrology energies together.